Have you ever found yourself on the road, with your thumb out, hoping the next passerby will be your savior? Or maybe you've been that driver, feeling the adrenaline rush of picking up a stranger? What many don't realize is that behind these seemingly harmless trips can lie the most disturbing nightmare. Every corner, every crossroad, there are stories that should never have happened. Stories that make us question our own safety. Today, we dive into 4 true and chilling tales of hitchhiking went terribly wrong. Each of these stories will not only rattle your nerves, but also make you think twice before accepting or offering a ride again. Brace yourself, because what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. The journey begins now, and you will never see the road the same way again. Story 1 was a cold, moonless night. Kind of night that makes your skin crawl just thinking about stepping outside. Maria was returning from a visit to her grandmother's house, a long and tiring journey. She drove alone on a deserted road, surrounded by dense forests. The radio barely tuned into a station, and the only company was the sound of the engine and the wind whistling through the windows. Suddenly, her headlights illuminated a figure by the side of the road. A man, with his thumb raised, looked lost and desperate. Maria hesitated for a moment, but her kind nature prevailed. She pulled over and rolled down the window. "Where are you headed?" she asked, trying to sound calm. "As far away from here as possible," the man replied, with a look that mixed fear and urgency. Something about him seemed off. Maria ignored her instincts and unlocked the door. The man got in, and for the first few minutes, silence reigned. He kept looking over his shoulder, as if something or someone was following him. When Maria finally broke the ice with a trivial question, he began to tell a story. He said he was running from something indescribable, something that had been following him for days and nights, peering in the shadows, whispering his name. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. The more he talked, the more she was convinced that the danger wasn't outside the car, sitting next to her. In a moment of courage, she looked at the man and saw something she would never forget. His eyes, once filled with fear, now gleamed with dark malice. Before she could react, he leaned in and whispered in her ear, "I never wanted a ride. I just needed company." For the end. The last thing Maria saw were the headlights of a truck coming toward her. And on that lonely road, the silence was shattered by the sound of metal and screams. Story 2. After a long day at work, Yuan was exhausted and just wanted to get home. The torrential rain had turned the road into a muddy river, making his journey even more difficult. The windshield wipers struggled to keep the view clear, and the sound of raindrops hitting the car roof was almost hypnotic. As he drove, he saw a figure moving by the side of the road. A woman, completely drenched, with clothes clinging to her body from the rain, was waving frantically. João hesitated. Picking up strangers was never a good idea, especially at night and in a storm. But something about her desperate expression made him stop. Opened the passenger door, and the woman quickly got in, shivering with cold. "Thank you so much," she said in a trembling voice. "My car broke down a bit further ahead, and I have no cell signal." Duo tried to talk, but she responded with monosyllables, staring fixedly at the road ahead. Something about her seemed off, but he couldn't pinpoint what. The tension in the car was almost palpable. He noticed that she was clutching a small bag to her chest, as if her life depended on it. As they approached a sharp curve, the woman turned to him, her eyes wide with terror. "Stop the car! Now!" she screamed. Without knowing why, Yuan obeyed. As soon as the car stopped, she ran out, disappearing into the darkness and the rain. Confused and scared, Yuan sat there for a moment, trying to understand what had just happened. Then he saw the glow of car lights ahead, partially hidden by the vegetation. Getting out of the car, he walked towards it, shielding himself from the rain with his arms. What he found made his blood run cold. A wrecked car, the same model described by the woman. Inside, the lifeless body of a woman, clutching the same small bag that the hitchhiker had. As he approached, he realized she had been dead for hours, maybe days. João's mind filled with dread. Who or what had been in the car with him moments before? He ran back to his car. The feeling of being watched never left him. The rest of the way home was a blur of fear and confusion. When he arrived, he promised himself never to pick up hitchhikers again. But the question haunted his nights. Who was that woman? Story 3. It was a cold dawn when Lucas decided to hit the road to visit his family in the countryside. The trip was long, and he was already used to driving for hours on end. The deserted road, lit only by the car's headlights, created an almost hypnotic scene. The monotony of the trip was broken by an indistinct figure on the roadside, waving for a ride. Lucas hesitated. Curiosity and a sense of loneliness made him stop. It was a young man, appearing no older than 20, with simple clothes and a lost look. "Can you take me to the next town?" he asked in a soft, almost pleading voice. Lucas agreed, thinking it would be good to have someone to talk to and keep him awake. The young man got in, and as he fastened his seatbelt, Lucas noticed he was trembling slightly, as if he were very cold. "Thank you. I've been walking for hours," said the passenger, staring fixedly at the road. Conversation was sparse, with the young man giving vague answers. There was something unsettling about his presence, but Lucas tried to ignore the feeling. As they approached the next town, Lucas asked where exactly he should drop him off. The young man pointed to a small cemetery by the roadside, and Lucas felt a chill up his spine. "You can leave me here," said the young man. Lucas stopped the car, and before he could say anything, the passenger was already out, walking towards the tombstones. Intrigued and a little scared, Lucas watched through the rearview mirror. The young man walked up to a specific tombstone, knelt down, and disappeared before his eyes. Lucas, incredulous, got out of the car and ran to the spot. There, before him, was the young man's gravestone with a photo etched in the marble. The epitaph read, "Tragically died, seeking a ride home." Lucas felt his body tremble. Returning to the car was almost an automatic act, and he drove non-stop until he reached his destination. The silence of the night seemed more oppressive than ever. He never picked up another hitchhike, and the memories of that night haunted his dreams. A constant reminder that not all passengers are alive. Story 4. Carla was returning from a party that had lasted late into the night. The car clock read 2:45 a.m., and the road was deserted. She loved driving at night, but something was unsettling about this particular trip. The silence was disturbing, and the path seemed darker than usual. With every mile traveled, her anxiety grew. Suddenly she saw a man walking by the roadside. He was waving vigorously, with a smile that gleamed in the headlights. Something about him seemed strange. Carla thought he might be in trouble. Against her better judgment, she stopped the car and rolled down the window. "Do you need a ride?" she asked, trying to sound confident. "Yes, please," replied the man, still with that unsettling smile. "I'm going to the next town." Carla unlocked the door and he got into the car, his smile never fading. For the first few minutes, he remained eerily silent, observing every detail of the car's interior. Carla tried to strike up a conversation, but his answers were short and emotionless. The atmosphere inside the car grew heavier, almost suffocating. When they passed through an unlit stretch, the man finally broke the silence. "Did you know this road is known for its dangerous hitchhiking legends?" he said, still smiling, but now with a sinister glint in his eye. Carla felt a chill run down her spine. "No, I didn't," she replied, trying to stay calm. "What do you mean?" He leaned slightly towards her, his smile growing wider and more menacing. "Some people say that those who pick up hitchhikers here never reach their destination," whispered, voice icy. Carla tried to laugh, but it came out as a nervous gulp. "Well, I hope that's just a legend." The man just looked at her, his smile turning into an expression Carla couldn't decipher. Silence took over again, and every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, as they approached the town, he asked to be let out. She stopped the car, and he got out, but before closing the door, he looked at Carla one last time. "Good luck on your next trip," he said, and his smile seemed to carry a dark promise. As soon as he disappeared into the darkness, Carla sped away, heart pounding. That night, she swore never to stop for a stranger on the road again. But the smile of that man, a smile that seemed to hide a deadly secret, never left her mind. Story 5. Raphael was an experienced truck driver, accustomed to long journeys and lonely roads. On a rainy night, he was driving down a deserted highway when he saw a young woman hitchhiking. Feeling bad for leaving her in the rain, he decided to stop. The young woman, with a fragile appearance and frightened eyes, gratefully got into the truck. My car broke down a few kilometers back, she explained, shivering. Can you take me to the next town? Raphael, always sympathetic, agreed without hesitation. The young woman settled into the passenger seat, and they began their journey. As they drove, Raphael tried to start a conversation to ease the tension. He asked where she was from and where she was headed. Her answers were vague and inconsistent. Something about her seemed off. The rain drummed on the truck's roof, and the darkness of the night seemed to swallow the road ahead. At one point, Raphael noticed the young woman staring fixedly at the truck's dashboard, with a glazed look that made him uncomfortable. Is everything all right? He asked, trying to sound casual. She turned her head slowly, and her eyes seemed empty, lifeless. Do you believe in ghosts, Raphael? The question caught him by surprise, and he felt a chill. Not really, he replied, trying to laugh to break the tension. Why do you ask? Because they're always around, she murmured, looking at the road ahead. Always. Raphael felt the temperature in the truck drop. He looked at the young woman, who now appeared even paler, almost translucent. The next town is just ahead, he said, trying to speed up the pace. Suddenly, the young woman began to disappear, slowly like mist dissipate. Raphael blinked several times, trying to understand what was happening. When he finally looked again, she was completely gone. He stopped the truck abruptly and got out, looking around. There was no sign of her, not even footprints in the mud along the road. Confused and terrified, Raphael returned to the truck and continued driving to the next town without stopping. When he arrived, he told his story to other truckers, but no one believed him. It was only later, after hearing local stories, that he discovered the truth. The young woman he had tried to help had died years ago, a victim of a car accident on that very road. Since then, it was said that her spirit roamed, asking for a ride to a destination she would never reach. And Raphael, now more skeptical than ever, knew he had witnessed something beyond comprehension. Story 6. Anna was on a business trip that took her through secondary, sparsely traveled roads. Tired and a bit bored, she saw a man by the roadside, desperately waving. He had an ordinary appearance, but there was something in his eyes that made her hesitate. However, her sense of compassion won out, and she stopped. Are you all right? She asked. The man approached. My car broke down just back there, he said, pointing to an empty spot on the road. Can you take me to the next town? Anna agreed, unlocking the door. As soon as he got in, a chill ran down her spine. He seemed normal, but the atmosphere inside the car changed drastically. The man was silent, watching the scenery pass by with a distant look. As they drove, Anna tried to start a conversation. Where are you from? She asked, trying to ease the tension. From nowhere and everywhere, replied enigmatically, his gaze now fixed on Anna. The answer made her uncomfortable. She continued, Are you visiting someone? Actually, I'm looking for someone, he said, turning to face her. Someone special. His tone was sinister, and Anna felt her heart race. Trying to stay calm, she kept driving, her eyes constantly checking the rear-view mirror. Then he began to tell a strange and disturbing story about a man who picked up hitchhikers, but was never really seeking help. Instead, he was looking for victims. He chose his victims carefully, man said, a macabre smile forming on his lips. He watched, waited, and then acted. Anna felt panic rising. What happened to him? She asked, her voice trembling. He was never caught, the man replied, staring at her intently, because no one ever survived to tell the story. The silence inside the car was suffocating. Anna knew she needed to get rid of him. How? The man seemed aware of her thoughts. Don't worry, he said softly. It's not your turn yet. When they finally reached the town, Anna stopped the car abruptly and asked him to get out. He complied, but before leaving, he leaned in and whispered in her ear, Be careful on the way back. Maybe I'll be waiting for you. Anna watched as he disappeared into the crowd, heart pounding. That night, as she drove back, every shadow seemed to hide that man. Every sound made her heart race. She knew she would never see hitchhikers the same way again, but the question that haunted her was, what really happened to the victims he found? And so, we come to the end of these spine-chilling stories. Each tale serves as a dark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying horrors lurk on deserted roads, waiting to turn a simple ride into an unforgettable nightmare. If, like us, you are fascinated by unsettling mysteries and stories that challenge reality, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Here, the nights are never peaceful, and each video brings a new tale that will stir your deepest fears. Activate the notification bell to never miss a story, and join us on this journey into the unknown. Who knows, maybe one day you will have a terrifying story of your own to tell. Until next time, and remember, not all passengers reach their destination.